Tyreek Hill. They do not force feed this man the ball anymore. So I would say the panic meter is 8 out of 10.
Played 71 of 80 snaps, 89%. He's out on the field. You got to have this guy. I think he's going to break out the rest of the season. Otten is looking like a stud. I mean, he looks like a fantasy league winner.
Dak Prescott. So last 4 games, 16-3, 13-12. Guys, I'm dropping him. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Catching a Vibe. I'm your host, Drew. Got the co-host with me. Before we get into it, guys, please give this video a like if you want your fantasy team to win this week. Today, we're going over players that we think will break out for the rest of the year. They're players that you should panic, and they're not going to do good the rest of the year. Mike, how are you feeling?
Good. I'm excited about this episode here because we're getting closer and closer to the fantasy playoffs. So you got to find those studs that you want to play and those duds that you want to drop or get rid of or not put on your bench and not play. These next few weeks are very impactful for your season. So I hope we can put out some good content for you guys that you can use. So I'm excited.
All right. We're going to start off with breakout players. And my first guy is the guy who just won off, JSN. He had 37 points against the Rams. He had 13 targets, 7 catches, and 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf has missed the past 2 weeks, and JSN has stepped up to become that receiver 1 for the Seahawks. He's been consistent, averaging 12-plus points in 6 out of the 9 games. He has a favorable schedule the rest of the year. 4 out of the 7 last matchups, he plays defenses that are at the bottom of the league against receivers. So that's why I like JSN for the rest of the year.
I agree. I had him down too. I mean, just look what he did last week. 7 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 37 fantasy points for you. And he's averaging about 8.5 targets in the last 5 games for you. So, yes, they're in a pass-heavy offense. He's going to start catching the ball. He played 71 of 80 snaps, 89%. He's out on the field. You got to have this guy. I think he's going to break out the rest of the season. Like you said, he's got favorable matchups coming up the rest of the season. So he's a guy that you want to play for sure. For sure. So a guy I looked at, he had a big game this weekend, Chase Brown from Cincinnati, right? This last week, he had 27 carries, 120 yards rushing, 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. That's 31 touches last week. That is so important to have a guy on your team. He's taken over that number 1 spot on this team. Cincinnati is a good team. You want this guy. He's averaging over 2.5 targets per week, 15 carries a week, and he's out there. You know, the last 2 games, he's put up 20 fantasy points for you. So, and the last 5 games, he's had double digits. So this is a guy going into your fantasy playoffs that you want to play. He's going to get you points. He is another breakout stud for me.
Yeah. Some brilliant, handsome young man said he was the flex play of the week last week. I don't know. You guys are going to have to look that up to figure out who said that. But
I'll say brilliant, but not handsome.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure. But all right, my next guy is D-Hop. Mahomes before the Monday night game, he was saying D-Hop is going to be huge for us. He's going to make an impact, and he did Monday. He had 9 targets, 8 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs' offense scored 30 points. It was the best we've seen the Chiefs' offense look this year. I think Hopkins opens up so much for the Chiefs. Takes away attention from Kelce, and Worthy over the top can stretch the field. I think D-Hop is a great flex play the rest of the year with Mahomes throwing the rock. So I like D-Hop breaking out.
he's a guy I had down to as well. I mean, he plays on Kansas City's team. They're ready to start going in their playoff mode here where they start scoring more points. I think he's going to break out. You look at it 2 weeks ago when he first got to the team, he only had 23 snaps. This last week, he had 51 out of 85, so they're ramping him up, getting him ready for the playoffs. And let's say his matchups, he's got some easy games coming up. They got Carolina, Las Vegas, Steelers are not very good. So I think Mahomes is such a good quarterback. He is definitely going to feed the ball to D-Hop. He's got great hands, great catching radius. So he's a guy that I look for that's going to start breaking out for you. You got to play him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a guy that I like, and he plays Darnell Mooney for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, this guy last week played 57 of 57 snaps, 100%. This guy was out on the field. He caught 5 balls, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. He's averaging 9 targets a game. So this is a guy that you got to have. Kirk Cousins is starting to get back to the old-fashioned Kirk Cousins, throwing the ball around, throwing touchdowns. This guy is the guy you want to have. The last 2 weeks, he's had 18.6 and 19.8 fantasy points. I want Darnell Mooney. He looks like a breakout stud to me.
Mm-hmm. Drake London got hurt too, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right, so my next guy is Travis Kelce. Travis had such a terrible start to the year, but now he's tight end 5. He had back-to-back 20-plus points. 4 out of the last 5 games, he scored over 15. We're seeing the Chiefs open up the playbook more for Kelce and gearing for the playoffs. It's such an advantage to have a good tight end with how poor the tight ends have been scoring this year. So I'm excited to see how Kelce finishes the fantasy season.
I agree. Kelce's starting to get back to the old Kelce. You love to see that, especially if you got him in your team. He's definitely going to help you out going down the stretch of your fantasy season. So my next guy is another tight end. I'm going with Cade Otton from Tampa Bay, right? He was out 54 of 55 snaps. That's 98%. He only sat out 1 play. He had 8 catches, 77 yards, and 1 touchdown. The last 3 weeks, this guy has exploded for you. I mean, he's basically looking like Kelce was in Kelce's prime. He's putting up big numbers for you. He's averaging 10 targets the last 3 weeks, over 20 fantasy points for the last 2 weeks. He's got an easy schedule coming up. He's got the Giants, Carolina, Las Vegas, Dallas. These are all teams that I think are packing it in. They're not playing very well. So Cade Otton is looking like a stud. Mm-hmm. I mean, he looks like a fantasy league winner for you because Baker Mayfield is throwing the ball around. We thought he would have scaled back a little bit with the 2 top receivers out there, but he's looking at Cade Otton. Mm-hmm. You know, he's getting at least 10 targets a game. I love that. I gotta play him. He's definitely your breakout.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. All right, my next guy is George Pickens. Pickens is a freak athlete, man. I mean, great hands, great jump ball ability, and can catch a short pass and take it to the house. Since Russ has taken over, he's been more involved and has scored. The game against the Giants, he scored twice. One got called back because of holding, and the other one, he only got foot down. It was similar to Garrett Wilson's one-handed snag, but I would just feel good if I had Pickens with the Steelers offense looking better, and they just got Mike Williams too. So Pickens, I like him a lot.
Yeah, he was a guy I had too. George Pickens, to me, with Russell Wilson as being the quarterback who is a better thrower of the football, is making George Pickens a lot better. And you know, he's got good catch radius. He's an athletic freak, good size. He's definitely a guy that I think's on the verge of seriously breaking out. He's a guy that I had down too.
Mm-hmm. My last guy is Tyron Tracy. He's just needing opportunities. Since Singletary got hurt, he scored 14, 22, and 23. He's beaten out Singletary to be the starter. Giants suck, but considering you probably just picked this guy up, I think it's great value. he torched the Steelers, who have a top 5 defense. He had 145 yards and a touchdown. He's really talented. This is only his second year playing running back, which is crazy to think about. So
Right.
I like Tyron Tracy.
Right. To me, I think he's starting to take over that number 1 role, and he looks much better than Singletary.
Mhm.
So I definitely like him as going down the stretch. This guy is starting to get more and more touches. That's what you love to see, and I agree with you there.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so now it's a panic time. We're
Right.
hitting the panic button on these players.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So my first guy is Tyreek Hill. Guys, I watch the Dolphins every week with my buddies, and they do not force feed this man the ball anymore. He went the first half against the Bills with 1 catch. Then he finished the game with 4 catches for 80 yards. To his first game back, Tyreek got 6 catches for 72 yards. For example, Jonnu Smith is getting the same amount of targets and catches as Tyreek Hill. That's unbelievable. Jonnu Smith is still on the waiver wire.
Right.
So I would say the panic meter is 8 out of 10. I think he's a receiver 2 flex play. He's not that boom player we've seen the last 2 years. So that's why I'm nervous about Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, he's having a down year. So I'm going to go with you. I'm on the other receiver on this team.
Yeah.
Jaylen Waddle is almost droppable.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a guy you could put on the waiver wires and not miss a beat.
Yeah.
He has put up 115 fantasy point week for you, and it was the first week of the season. After that, he has not scored over 10 points the rest of this season. He's only averaging 3 targets a game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, Tua, there's no reason or that he can come in and maybe perform how he did like last year. He might struggle with these concussions piling up on him. You know, he might struggle, and hey, Jaylen Waddle's too busy running 30 yards backwards and losing you points.
Mm-hmm.
I just really don't like him. Their matchups aren't very great either. They got Jets. They play Houston, 49ers, Cleveland. It's somewhat of a tough schedule. Those are in your playoffs. Those are kind of teams that can shut down your receivers. So I would kind of tend to walk away. He's a guy I'm definitely panicking if I am not dropping him.
Yeah, that's a really good one. My second guy is Breece Hall. Breece Hall has had some really good games, but he's been inconsistent. He's had games of 24, 26, 21. Then he'll have a 3, a 6. In the last 2 weeks, he scored 9 and 10. The Jets' offensive line is a problem. I mean, I think I could get through that offensive line and get to Breece Hall, but he's the person I'm least concerned about, but there's some worry. Devontae and Garrett are getting majority of the targets, and so those high catch games, that's not happening anymore with those guys. And Rodgers hasn't looked great this year, so that's why I'm concerned. I'd probably go like a 5 or 6 out of 10 on the panic meter for Breece Hall.
For sure. I mean, the thing with Breece Hall is you drafted him so early, you kind of got to keep marching him out there. But he is really inconsistent. Braylon Allen's taking a little production away from him. He's getting all those red zone carries, which is so important for Breece Hall to put up big numbers because he's not getting those high rushing totals for you. I mean, you really need those touchdowns for Breece Hall to have a big game. Plus, his receptions are coming down. So that's really hurting Breece Hall, and that's causing this inconsistency with him. So, yeah, I agree. I'm panicking on him. You know, I've drafted him in some of my leagues, so I'm worried about him. But I got to keep playing him. So,
No doubt.
my other top guy is DJ Moore for Chicago Bears. The last 3 weeks, his fantasy points go like this: 6, 5.4, and 7.3. Right? I am worried about Caleb Williams' inconsistency at the quarterback play. Right? So let's just talk about his last 2 weeks. Last week, he threw for 217 yards. That's nothing, right? 131 yards the week before that. Until this guy starts being consistent and throwing for over 300 yards, DJ Moore is scary. Plus, they're spreading the ball around. 1 week, it's Rome and Dunze. Next week, It's DJ Moore. Keenan Allen, and then you got Cole Kmet that steals some touchdowns from you. So on a fantasy production-wise, it's so over the chart that I'm worried about DJ Moore's production. It's hard to start him. Plus they got, the second half of the season, they play some tough defenses. They play Minnesota twice, Detroit twice, and they got the 49ers in there. Now, these are teams that could shut down Chicago's offense. So I'm kind of scared of DJ Moore right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I had DJ Moore as well, and they're 28th in total offense. DJ and Caleb are not on the same page, like you said. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10 on the panic meter. I don't think I can start him the rest of the year. So
yeah, so if I would rate him, I'd be about a 7.
7.
That is pretty scary. Just because of the spreading around of the ball and the inconsistency of Caleb Williams. So I agree. It's high with being 7, but So yeah. I agree.
So my next guy is Chris Olave. I feel so bad for Olave. He's had so many concussions in such a short career. His latest one, he didn't move. Like, he had to get carted off. I don't know if he plays again this year, but if he does, I can't play him. He's had games of 3, negative 0.5.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 and 3. Derek Carr throws some hospital balls all the time. His last 4 games, he's averaged 5 points. I wouldn't start him again this year. But don't drop him. I definitely wouldn't drop him unless they say he's done for sure. So on a panic meter, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, he's about as high as you get. He's a 9 to a 10. Mm-hmm. With that injury looks serious. You're kind of right that he may not play the rest of the season, so you're really worried about that. You drafted him probably at the end of the second round, maybe the beginning of the third round. You better look somewhere else on your roster to get somebody else in there. He's position ranked for the receiver. He's 59th. He's only averaging 9.6 on the season for you. So he's not really averaging many points for you when he is playing. Yeah. Derek Carr is not getting the ball to him, and if he does, they're taking him out on a stretcher. So I am scared to death of Chris Olave. You're right. I like the guy. I think he's a great football player, but this is starting to get scary.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
So my next guy is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., right? With the ups and downs with him. He looks great on 1 week. Like 2 weeks ago, he puts up 23 fantasy points. Last week, he put up a big whopping 3.4. The week before that, 5.4, and then he had zeros, right? This guy didn't put nothing up for you. Kyler Murray is struggling, and he can't find Marvin Harrison. I am scared of Marvin Harrison. This is a guy that you drafted at the end of the first round or the beginning of the second round. Hit the panic button on this. Yeah. This is 7.5 on my panic scale with Harrison. But then again, you drafted him so early, you kind of got to play him. But man, I'd look around on your roster and I would go with someone else.
Yeah. All right. So my last guy is Dak Prescott. Just suffered a hamstring injury, so he's going to miss a couple of weeks. But the Cowboys suck anyways. Dak's last 4 games, 16-3, 13-12. Guys, I'm dropping him in my 1 league. I think you should too. There's guys on waiver that have scored more points than Dak all season. Plus, your backup quarterback is probably better than him. My panic meter is 9.5 out of 10 as well. So, Dak, I'm done with you.
Right, Dak. I mean, like I said, these next few weeks are your most important weeks. You're jockeying for position to get into these fantasy points. You really can't take L's. So you almost gotta make room and set Dak Prescott down, or if you drop him, that's fine because there's capable waiver wire quarterbacks out there for you to pick up. Yeah. I agree. I'm kind of concerned about CJ Stroud as well. He hasn't had very big weeks for you. His last 3 weeks, he's only had 1 touchdown in the last 3 weeks. His touchdown production is dropping. And I mean, they're winning the old-fashioned dirty way. They got defensive scores and stuff like that. They're just winning games on other ways, and they're not relying on CJ Stroud to throw for 300 plus with 3 touchdowns. He's not putting up those big days for you. So I'm a little panic on CJ Stroud, but it's lower than that. I mean, it's probably about a 3 to a 4, 4.5, somewhere in that area. But then again, you gotta, I'm worried about him.
Yeah, positive thinking for CJ is Nico Collins is supposed to come back this week.
Right.
So.
I mean, that was the thing that's panicking is he's losing receivers. The injuries are starting to play an effect with him, and he's struggling at facilitating the ball, spreading it around, getting it out there, putting up these big, passing yards for you. So he's a guy that I'd be worried about.
Yeah, I think that's going to help CJ. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, guys, that wraps up the video. Please comment down like your ideas or your picks for who to panic.
Yeah, I'd like to hear other people's breakout players or people you're panicking about. Let us know. I mean, voice your opinion. If you watch this, I mean, just say what you want. Tell us, what you thought of who we picked, or did we get it right? What's your panic meter?
Yeah, let us know, guys. I want to say thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you're new here, please subscribe. We're getting closer to 1,000. I would really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Peace.